Welcome to the 2026 Kinder Institute Luncheon and Survey Presentation.
Through research, data-driven insights, and partnerships, the Institute is helping cities become not only more prosperous, but more equitable and more resilient.
To watch the Kinder Institute grow and have an impact on Houston over these years has been a tremendous source of pride for us. We believe deeply that every investment in research results in tangible and meaningful outcomes for our communities.
We've been longtime supporters of the Kinder Houston Area Survey, and that survey had absolutely informed our work. But to be able to have the partnership we have now, it is very deep, it is very granular. The work here isn't just having an impact here, it's really inspiring other communities to come together in a different way as well.
When we came to the Kinder Institute for help with their housing specialists, they brought their expertise and their data and their strengths. But what I saw that was so valuable is they were able to help us, the city and the county, collaborate better. More than great data, more than great expertise, that trust that you've built has been so important.
To have a trusted partner that you can call allows me to advocate properly for the resources that I need so that we can make the difference and prove that we're making the impact we think we're making.
Because of our partnership, that helps us do a better job of being present in community in those counties, understanding how they think about issues.
Together with the Kinder Institute, Rice is ensuring that the impact we have here in Houston extends far beyond.
The Kinder Institute brings something that's so important in this day and age, which is a sense of optimism.
Today, I believe we have some of the brightest minds working to understand our dynamic city and to ensure that Houston's engine of prosperity continues to thrive.
And now, please welcome to the stage, morning anchor at ABC 13 and our Mistress of Ceremonies, Samica Knight.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see you, so good to see so many smiling faces. And I don't have to tell you this, lunch is being served, but I do want to mention one thing. The dessert is great. It really is. Well, it is truly an honor to be back as MC for this incredible event and to stand before you today at Rice University's Kinder Institute Annual Luncheon. What a special event this is. We're so glad to have you. And you can see that we have a full room today. In fact, just look to your neighbor and give him a smile and let him know you're glad to see him. You guys are awesome. So with nearly 1,000 guests eager for today's program, it is clear that all of you recognize the immense importance of the work of the Kinder Institute. In the video we just saw, in fact, we heard the voices of some of the Kinder Institute community and research partners, and we heard about their experiences and why they value the Institute so much. But of course, this is only a small look into the story, the legacy, and also the impact. Today we are celebrating and we are standing on the shoulders, and I want you to hear this, of 45 years of the Kinder Houston Area Survey. I'm with you. Wow. So as many of you know, the survey began 45 years ago with Dr. Stephen Klineberg. He's brilliant, and he's here with us today, giving us a wave. Thank you so much. Well, in fact, we have many distinguished guests here today. We have elected officials, among them Mayor John Whitmire. Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis here as well. Houston City Council Member Willie Davis. HCC Trustee Pretta Stallworth. Rice University trustees in the house as well. And Kinder Institute Advisory Board members. In fact, will all of you please stand? We'd like to recognize all of you. In fact, we're raising the lights for you. We'd like to thank you so much for the work you do to improve our communities. So in the presentation, a bit later, you will hear key takeaways from this year's survey. But there is so much more to it than that. The Kinder Institute is home to 5 research centers, helping business and civic leaders cut through the noise with research that is local, research that is timely and actionable. And that research is shared in a variety of other reports. We're talking the Center for Community and Public Health. It is looking at food insecurity, while HERC will kick off a region-wide study about the educator workforce and the needs of our teachers. The annual State of Housing report will be released this summer, followed in the fall by the region's first annual Economic Mobility report, showing where opportunity is improving and also where it's falling behind. The Houston Population Research Center will release new findings on changes in the immigrant population. And a new report on health will be coming from the multi-year Asian American Community Study. This is only some of the work really happening at Kinder Institute. And because the Institute's research is shared as a public good, it equips all of us to make smarter decisions for our communities. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce a lifelong public servant who says that his career has been defined by a deep commitment to the people of Houston. After decades of leadership in the Texas legislature, he now serves our great city as the mayor, bringing experience and a focus on results in our great city, the city of Houston. Please join me now in welcoming the mayor of Houston, Mayor John Whitmire.
Thank you, Samica, and thank everyone that's present today. I don't know a better way to start this week than to bring this opportunity to us to recognize one of the real reasons in real life time why Houston is a great city. And I hope everyone here knows and has been reminded recently how blessed we are to live in the city of Houston. And one of the reasons we're blessed is because of the institutions and the individuals that we recognize today. The Kinder Institute, starting in '82, I was going to the state senate in '82. Not only then, but for the last 40 years, it has remained one of the instruments, one of the studies that has helped my public service. And I've shared it with people in Austin. We still share it at City Hall. So it's exciting for me to be here and recognize Rice, Kinder Institute, and certainly those that make it possible. This morning, as I was having coffee, I was thinking, what could I do besides welcome everyone? I get that opportunity probably too often. I said, why don't you leave a little bit of message in your 2 minutes of not only how blessed we are to be Houstonians, but a message that I want all of us to remember. We can't take it for granted that we live in a great city. And we can't take it for granted that we have institutions like Rice. And we can't take it for granted that we have the Kinder Institute. And certainly we can't take for granted that we have Rich and Nancy Kinder. So let me just welcome everyone. This is going to be a great occasion for us to see what collaboration does. Charles Foster's been an advisor of mine for many years. The Klineberg Award is outstanding. Most of those studies that I read and referenced as a public official were authored by him. its continued, its great service. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your evening. Let's not take each other for granted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Whitmire. And that spirit of service and collaboration is exactly what drives the work at the Kinder Institute. Rice University has long been a partner, a collaborator, and an engine for breakthrough research. And here in Houston and all around the world, really, Rice stands as a pillar of excellence in research and innovation. Today, we are honored to have Amy Dittmar join us. She serves as the provost at Rice University and helps guide its strategic vision for the future. A distinguished scholar, and I do mean distinguished. She's a scholar of economics and finance. She holds faculty appointments in both the School of Social Sciences and also the Jones Graduate School of Business, with research focused on corporate finance, governance, and gender economics. So, in her role, she oversees Rice's academic enterprise and has led major initiatives to expand the faculty, strengthen student support, and also advance the university's long term strategic plan, Momentous. Please join me now in welcoming to the stage the Howard R. Hughes Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs for Rice University, Amy Dittmar.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to join you at this annual gathering, one that not only reflects on the data, but on what the data reveals about who we are as a region and where we are headed. For more than 4 decades, the Kinder Houston Area Survey has provided something truly extraordinary: a living longitudinal portrait of a major American metropolitan area, with insights drawn from more than 9,000 residents and now expanding beyond Harris County to include Montgomery and Fort Bend counties. This work gives us a depth of understanding that is unmatched anywhere in the country. At Rice, we are committed to rigorous, evidence-based research that propels discovery to transform lives and better humanity. And the Kinder Institute exemplifies this work not only by generating the high-quality data, but in the partnership research that they are so known for. And in doing this, they show us that it is not just the quality of the data, it is what each and every one of us does with it. The Kinder Institute sits at the heart of one of the central research priorities of Rice's strategic plan, Momentous, personalized scale for global impact. Our commitment to advancing thriving urban communities. What this means is tackling complex, interconnected challenges that shape life in cities such as education, housing, health, infrastructure, and resilience. And it means doing it in ways that are not only locally meaningful, but globally relevant, providing insights to policy and exemplifying progress for other cities. Houston is one of the most dynamic and diverse metropolitan regions in the world. What happens here often foreshadows what's coming for cities across the country and increasingly across the globe. The Kinder Institute helps us understand those patterns in real time. And more importantly, it equips us to respond. We see how Kinder translates insight into impact most clearly through the Kinder Institute's research centers, each focused on a critical but intersecting dimension of urban life. Through the Houston Education Research Consortium, We are working directly with school systems and districts across the region to inform policy and improve student outcomes, pushing forward evidence-based insight on best practices and ensuring that research doesn't sit on a shelf, but actively shapes the future of education. Through the Houston Population Research Center, which houses the Houston Area Survey, we are building one of the most comprehensive understandings of demographic change in any major U.S. city, capturing the evolving experiences of one of the most diverse metropolitan regions in the nation. And through centers focused on economic mobility, housing and neighborhoods, and community and public health, we are enhancing our understanding and addressing the interwoven systems that determine opportunity, advancement, and quality of life. Developing research that informs policy, strengthens communities, and expands pathways to prosperity. What makes this model so powerful is its integration. These centers do not operate in isolation. They reflect the reality that the challenges facing cities and the people that live in them are deeply interconnected. Housing affects health and education. Demographic change impacts how the factors shape neighborhoods. And the confounding influences of all of these create pathways for economic mobility. The Kinder Institute gives Rice a unique platform, not just to understand cities, but to improve them through coordinated, data-driven action that can scale far beyond Houston. By grounding our work in research and data, by fostering collaboration across disciplines, and by staying deeply connected to our communities, we serve the Institute ensures that the research is not only excellent, but it is relevant, actionable, and impactful. So today, as we reflect on the latest findings from the Houston Area Survey, I encourage each of you to think about not just what the data is telling us, but what does it call us to do? What does it call you to do? Because at Rice and through the Kinder Institute, we are not just studying cities, we are helping to shape their future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. We really appreciate you. Every year, this luncheon gives us an opportunity to recognize an individual who, in their own way, furthers the mission or demonstrates the pillars of the Kinder Institute. The Stephen L. Klineberg Award is named in honor of the co-founder of the Kinder Institute for Urban Research. Again, good to see you, Dr. Stephen Klineberg. And the recipients are selected for their lasting impact on Greater Houston. This year, we are so proud to present the Klineberg Award to Charles C. Foster. He is a nationally, yes. You guys are awesome. He is a nationally recognized immigration attorney who has advised U.S. presidents. He's helped to shape a more inclusive approach to immigration and devoted his entire career to expanding opportunities and also helping people. Please join me now in watching this video tribute.
The overwhelming reason why I do this work is making difference in real people's lives. We give them the American dream. We are a country of immigrants. We grow through immigration. We give them the opportunity to live here and to benefit this country in amazing ways, and it's a privilege to be part of that. I'm Charles C. Foster. I'm chairman of the immigration law firm Foster, LLP. I went to law school at the University of Texas. I had a great interest in all things international. I was determined to be an international lawyer. And as a result, I filled a vacuum because there was no other law firm at that time doing that type of work. Like so many, I was fortunate to come to Houston to start my career. One of the reasons was because it was a dynamic, growing community, and I and my law firm, we enabled that by representing so many talented people from China, India, Iran, Thailand, Pakistan, the Philippines, all of which made Houston a more diverse and a better city. My best-known case was for Lee Sin. It was turned into a best-selling book, Miles' Last Answer, which was also turned into a movie which had a worldwide success. It involved the most unique issues which were litigated on the courthouse steps of the federal courthouse downtown. After many years, I still get calls from all over the world wanting me to do the impossible, thinking because of that case that anything could be done. When I decided to concentrate just in immigration, I decided I would do everything I could. I would accept every speaking invitation. I wrote for various legal publications. I've written more than 30 or 40 op-ed pieces for the Houston Chronicle. I felt very fortunate when then Governor George W. Bush decided to run for president. I was asked if I would serve as his immigration policy advisor. And for me, that was a really big deal. After President Obama was elected, I was asked to work for him on comprehensive immigration reform as well. And some people find that very unusual. I say, I'm selling good immigration policy. I don't care what the party label is. I've been fortunate to have gotten a lot of awards, and one I'm most proud of is for the outstanding pro bono effort, and that is for the establishment of ProBar, which was a trilateral effort of the American Bar Association, the State Bar of Texas, and the American Immigration Lawyers Association to develop a major pro bono effort in South Texas. I'm very proud of the fact that I got involved with the Asia Society. I conceived of the idea and helped develop and build an extraordinary home for the Asia Society in the Museum District. I helped conceive and develop the George Bush Presidential Monument, and later was asked to head the effort to develop the James Baker Monument, conceived the idea of the Robert Mosbacher Memorial Bridge, also conceived and helped develop the Lyndon B. Johnson Monument, in part because of his critical work he did in civil rights, space, and immigration. One of the most rewarding aspects of my career is the feedback I get no matter where I go. Someone will come up to me and thank me for making a difference in my life. I tell the lawyers in this firm how lucky they are. We change people's lives for the better, and it's really an amazing feeling. It's the most rewarding part of the work that I get to do.
It is absolutely my privilege to assist in presenting the 2026 Stephen Klineberg Award to Charles Foster for his prolific and profound work in immigration law. Please join me now in recognizing and celebrating him.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you all. This is a true honor to receive the Stephen Klineberg Award, particularly with Steve here, and that makes it special. And two other honorees, I see Rick Campo and Mark Boone, and it's a true honor to be in their footsteps. I want to thank the Kinder Institute Advisory Board, especially Rich and Nancy Kinder, and of course, Ruth Lopez Turley for this honor. I also want to thank my wife Lily and my family, my fellow Foster LLP, immigration attorneys and friends, all here today for their support. This award is especially meaningful because I had the opportunity to work with Stephen in the inception of the area survey in 1982. From the beginning, Stephen surveyed the attitude of Houstonians on a variety of immigration issues, and we would periodically speak on those issues for different groups. I know the Kinder Institute has continued and expanded the area's survey on immigration and other issues, and it's never been more relevant than today, given the impact of immigration on our economy, the lives of millions, our population growth, and unfortunately, our politics as well. I've worked on multiple immigration reform initiatives since the enactment of the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, which was the last time Congress was able to pass major immigration legislation, as well as for 2 presidents of the United States on immigration. And I hope that finally this Congress and this president will be able to support immigration legislation, not only to expand the very limited existing legal immigration avenues for both the most talented and for needed workers, but to end divisive mass deportation policies to end mass immigration deportation policies by protecting the undocumented without any criminal record, especially dreamers, a large percentage of which have been here for decades, by providing them with a pathway to lawful permanent resident status here in the United States. Again, thank you for honoring me with the Stephen L. Klineberg Award. It's a true honor. I'm humbled.
Congratulate him again for his incredible work in this community. On behalf of Rice University, we certainly appreciate all that you have done and continue to do. We are so appreciative of you. At this time, we would also like to take a moment to thank the many organizations and individuals who invest in our communities. Your support of the Kinder Institute is invaluable. So it does more than just allow for ongoing research and programs. It truly helps to advance the Kinder Institute's mission to build better cities and improve lives. A special thank you to all of the presenting sponsors at the chairman's level. These include Bracewell, Centerpoint Energy, HEB, the Kinder Foundation, John L. Now III, and Tom and Laura Bacon. And as you continue to enjoy your lunch, don't forget about dessert, please take a moment to view the full list of sponsors listed in your program and showing on the screen. In fact, a big round of applause, if you don't mind, for all of our sponsors today. Well, at this time, we are going to take a really brief break and return shortly to hear about the 2026 Kinder Houston Area Survey results. We'll be right back.
Please welcome back to the stage, Samica Knight.
Okay, so we would like for you to continue to enjoy your lunch as we continue on with the program, if you don't mind. Boy, you guys are a great audience. Goodness gracious. Dr. Klineberg, good to see you. Well, it's what you guys have been waiting for. It's coming up next. The landmark portion of this program is the presentation of the Kinder Houston Area Survey, and the time is here. Before we begin, though, let's take a moment to appreciate what a privilege it is to have 45 years of this survey to learn from. Well, when we gather here each year, we get a chance to pause and reflect on what the research is telling us about the shifts we're seeing, some of the challenges we are facing, and the opportunities ahead of us. For so many of us, this research gives us a bit of a deeper understanding of our region, of the diverse beliefs and the attitudes that shape our communities. And it brings data and credibility to the conversations we're already having in hallways, at our dinner tables, and everywhere in between. Data-driven research is powerful. So thank you to the Kinder Institute, and thank you to all of our sponsors here today for supporting such a public good. So here to present the findings from the 45th Kinder Houston Area Survey. Please join me now in welcoming the Director of Surveys at the Houston Population Research Center, Dan Potter. Also welcoming to the stage the Director of the Kinder Institute for Urban Research, Ruth Lopez Turley.
So much for being here this afternoon. And Dan, I want to begin by thanking you and the survey team for doing an outstanding job of building on the groundbreaking work of Steve Klineberg. Every year, you make improvements to the survey to help us learn even more about our community, all in service to the community. So thank you, Dan.
Absolutely, yes. Well, thank you, Ruth. And really, this is a team effort. And so I want to give a shout out to Karen, Anna, Dylan, Tingshu, Keyshawn, and Aaron. Those are the team members who helped bring this all together this year. So thank you all so much.
Now, before we dive into this year's findings, I want to highlight a few things about the survey itself. Now, in its 45th year, as you all know, the Kinder Houston Area Survey is not only the longest running metropolitan survey, it's also the largest.
Yep.
This year, we reached out to over 11,200 residents of 3 counties. These residents are representative of Fort Bend, Montgomery, and Harris counties. And together, these counties cover more than 20% of the population of Texas. Now, even though we reached out to over 11,200 residents, we once again hit a response rate of about 80%. Of course, many of y'all are probably wondering, Dan, how did you and the team do this?
Yeah, well, first, I love any room that claps for response rates.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are my people. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
No, we're doing a couple things, right, Ruth? So, one is we're making sure we're talking with people multiple times a year. And so throughout the year, we're surveying people. We're also connecting with them through newsletters and making sure that they're familiar with us. And last but not least, there's the incentive. It's $15. It really is not enough. It's a token of our appreciation. But it's one of those things we do to make sure people understand that when we say we value your input, we're putting our money where our mouth is. And it is expensive, and it makes this survey expensive to do. But importantly, it also means that we're getting high quality research, and that's an investment worth making.
That's right. So it's worth every penny for sure. Now, this year's survey covers 3 major themes, starting first of all with the economy, then, of course, the environment, and finally, social connections. Now, today, we're not going to cover everything in this survey. but we do want to highlight a few key takeaways, starting with the economy. Now, I expected more people to be concerned about the economy this year, but I was quite surprised by how much more concerned we are about the economy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, we were looking at some of the data that was coming in. I mean, the Houston area was projected to get 70,000 new jobs in 2025. We added less than 20,000, right? And so we were anticipating that the economy was going to be on people's minds. We just weren't sure that it was going to be this much, right? And so now, year after year, again, here's the beautiful thing about having that Kinder Houston area survey for so long. We get to ask the same questions over time, right? And so for years, we've asked people, talk to us about the job opportunities that exist in the Houston area. And do you think they're poor, fair, good, excellent? How are you feeling about the job opportunities? For the last several years, about 60, 65, even 70% of people were telling us, good, excellent, the job opportunities in the Houston area. This year, that number dropped 29 percentage points. And that drop occurred in all 3 counties. This is the largest single-year decline that we have seen in the perception of job opportunities in Harris County since 1982-83, the oil crisis. This is the largest decline that we have seen in Fort Bend and Montgomery County ever. We have never detected a drop of this size.
And some of you all might recall, especially Steve Klineberg, since he's here with us today, you might recall that that drop is exactly the reason why you decided to continue doing the survey. It was initially going to be a one-time study, but that really caught everybody's attention. You decided to continue doing the survey.
Yeah, it was a class project, as Stephen has shared with us, right? But you saw that drop and you were like, we got to keep learning about this. And so for us now, we know we have to keep learning about this, but we also understand that the economy is a huge concern for Houston area residents.
Right. So, but this isn't the only indicator that we saw. There were multiple reasons why people expressed more and more concern about the economy.
Yeah, exactly. So we've asked folks this time and time again, what do you think is the biggest problem facing the Houston area? And this year, the biggest problem facing the Houston area was the economy. 1 in 4 residents, 25%, said that when they were thinking, what is the biggest problem facing our area? It was the economy. Now, of course, this means that there were other biggest problems that people had on their mind as well, and some of these are very familiar to us. So we had crime and safety as our second most commonly identified biggest problem. We had traffic as another one, and anybody who tried to park here this morning understands, yes, indeed, we've got some challenges there, but we also saw the cost of housing as another big problem facing this area. But by far and away, the economy, not only was it number 1, it was the one that grew the most in terms of the number of people saying this is the biggest problem facing Houston.
Right. And another indicator of people's growing concerns with the economy was the percentage of people saying they had a difficulty getting by financially.
Exactly. So we wanted to understand from people when they're thinking about their financial situations, how do they think they're doing? Are they finding it difficult to get by? Are they just getting by? Are they doing okay? Are they living comfortably? We want more people doing okay and living comfortably, but what we saw was the percent of residents who were reporting that they were either just getting by or finding it difficult to get by, that percent increased from last year to this year, and it didn't just increase among lower and middle income earners, although, again, we can see that was where some of the larger increases took place. Those folks expressing that they were experiencing financial strain was across the income spectrum. It didn't matter if you were making over $150,000 or less than $25,000. You were expressing to us that you were finding it more difficult to get by.
Right. And then there's the question that we've been asking for quite a few years now that many of you refer to, is the percentage of people that say that they can handle a $400 emergency.
Yeah, and let's think about it, Ruth. Like a $400 emergency, we're talking about the check engine light comes on the way to an event, a blown tire, a child gets sick or injured. Right. I mean, $400 disappears in a heartbeat when that thing's an unexpected expense. And so what we saw this year was people reporting to us that they were finding it more and more difficult to cover that unexpected expense. And so again, we can see this was particularly noted among lower income earners, where for folks that were making less than $25,000, nearly 80%, 79%, that's 8 in 10 making less than $25,000. If they had an unexpected expense of $400 or more, they would either not be able to pay for it or they would at least have to borrow that money. These are people that are very much experiencing financial strain, financial vulnerability, and to be in that position to not have those funds to cover that unexpected expense.
That's right. So we have lots of indicators that show that people are more and more concerned about the economy. And yet, so we have big challenges, not just economic challenges, but other challenges as well. But I feel optimistic that we here in the Houston area can work together to address these challenges. Now, I'm not just saying it because I'm an optimistic person, but we have reason to believe that we can actually work together. So that brings us to our next section of the survey, where we looked into how well we know one another, and we looked at the power of social connections. And we found some really interesting things. So I really want you all to pay attention to this next section, because this is covering something new, something that we have never done before in the 45 years of this survey. And that is that in addition to asking people about their own beliefs, we ask them what they think others believe.
Yeah. And again, to your point about that optimism of us being able to do something about it, you're hitting it right on the nail. Together. Together, we can do things about the challenges that we're faced with. And so what we wanted to do is, look, we know, we've seen the research that's coming out right now. You can look around the country. We are experiencing social divisiveness that is it is worse than it has been in at least 3 to 4 decades. We know that. We're living it on a day-to-day basis. Now, we could do research here in the Houston area that further diagnoses that issue that we're experiencing, or we can turn the table on it and say, well, how do we start pointing to solutions? If we're feeling divided, this obvious solution of this is, how do you bring people together? How do we connect? And so we wanted to look at 3 different components of connectedness. One of them was, how well do we know one another? The other one was personal and professional connections. And the third one is our social cohesion. Let's start with the how well do we know one another. So Ruth, just like you're talking about, we've asked these questions for years. What do you think about this topic? What do you think about this issue? Do you favor it? Do you oppose it? Do you support it? Do you agree, disagree? We've asked the question, but we have not asked before, what do you think they think about it? All right, so now let's look at a concrete example of this to maybe figure out, like, what's this guy talking about? Okay, well, here's what we're talking about. So we've asked folks for years, when it comes to thinking about gun control issues, do you favor universal background checks? And so we asked that of our survey respondents. We also asked respondents, so suppose a respondent was a Democrat. So we would say, hey, Democrat, what % of Republicans do you think support universal background checks? And then we asked Republicans, hey, Republicans, what % of Democrats do you think? And here's what we found from that issue, was that when we were asking Republicans what % of Democrats support universal background checks, 74%. That's the % that Republicans think Democrats support. Now, if we ask Democrats what % of Republicans support universal background checks, 35%. So we've got 2 things going on here. One is, we don't think most Republicans support universal background checks. In fact, half do not support, is what we are assuming, and we think we're different on this. And again, 74% is pretty good, right? That's 3/4. But remember, we also asked folks, well, do you actually support it? And what we found was, when we were asking Democrats, it's not 74%, it's 97%. And when we are asking Republicans, it's not 35%, it's 91% of universal background checks, right? Yes. This is something to clap about, because what this means is, not only are we not different from one another on this issue, it is nearly uniform. It is nearly universal support. This isn't divisiveness. This is a uniting topic, a uniting issue. But we're told it's controversial. We're told it's a third rail issue that we can't do anything about. oh, we can do something about this. And we have to be able to do this because when you have this kind of support, it's not political, it's pragmatic. And so how do you get in touch with local, state, federal officials and let them know we're not divided, we're united? Let's do something about this to create safer communities.
That's right. So if we really stop and think about this, and this is just one example, there are lots of other social issues that we asked about, and repeatedly we found that we're much more aligned than we think we are. And that is a really important key concept for us to really reflect on, because what it means is, as Dan just said, we can actually work together to implement policy changes that, in this case, can literally save lives. We just don't know each other as well as we need to know each other. So this brings us to this next section of our survey this year, where we really took a deeper dive into the power of social connections. We wanted to really understand what is it about these connections and how do they impact various life outcomes.
Yes, exactly. And so one of the things, again, we're talking about how unified we might be on an issue. Okay, that's great for policy, but what about for me? Well, what we found is not only can our social connectedness help to improve our policies, our social connectedness can help improve our own individual lives. And so how well connected we are, it matters for our wealth, our health, and our sense of safety.
Yes. So why don't you give us a concrete example? We'll start with wealth, because a lot of people sometimes think that that's the most important thing, but it turns out it's not. And yet, the power of social connections is really, really important when it comes to our wealth.
Yeah, so when we're thinking about wealth, we can both think about how much money we're earning right now, as well as thinking about our economic mobility. How much control do I think I have to be able to get ahead in the future? And so that's one of the things we looked at with this year's study, was not just how much am I earning right now, but how much control do I feel over my financial situation? And so we wanted to know, well, what might be related to someone's sense of financial control? And now, of course, it makes sense. Someone's income, right, is likely going to be predictive of how much control they feel like they have over their financial situation. Perhaps the more income you have, the more control you feel like you have over your financial situation in the future. And in fact, that's exactly what we found. So for those folks that are making less than $25,000, it's about a 50% likelihood that they feel like they have control over their future. It's a coin flip about that sense of financial control. Now, for those folks that are making over 150, that goes up to 69%. And so again, we're talking about a 20 percentage point increase, but you might also be sitting there going like, okay, so you're telling me that my money matters for my financial future? Stop the presses. But here's what's important about this. We're looking at the role of income, right? But when we look at the role of our social connections, and here what we're looking at is personal and professional connections. And in particular, what we're wanting to know is, when you think about the relationships you have in your life, are you connected to the people that you need to be connected to be able to get ahead? If you disagreed with that statement, you had a 36% chance of saying that you feel like you were in financial control. If you agreed with that statement, it goes up to 85%. That is almost a 50 percentage point increase, which is much larger than the growth that we saw associated with income. And so what we're talking about here is that when we want to understand our economic mobility, we can either look to increase people's incomes by $100,000, or we can start building connections and helping to develop those networks of personal and professional connections that give people the relationships they need to get ahead.
That's right. So it's very, very powerful, even more powerful in this case than income. What about health?
Yeah, so when we were looking at health, we wanted to take a view on what is related to someone's health. And in particular, what we're going to look at here is our physical health. Now, we saw something similar for mental health, but we wanted to focus on physical health just to acknowledge that here we're not just focused on sort of maybe how I feel about something. We are talking about people's reports on their physical well-being. And so we wanted to understand from people what predicts that physical health. And once again, we would think to ourselves, well, the income that somebody earns is very, very likely related to their physical health. And in fact, that is correct. We saw when we were looking at people's physical health that in fact, for those folks that were earning less than $25,000, they had a 41% chance of reporting that their physical health was very good or excellent. We can contrast that with people that are making over $150,000, where that likelihood goes up to 70%. So we see about a 30 percentage point increase there. But when we look at that connectedness again, and here we're looking at social cohesion. What is social cohesion? For us, we wanted to understand how connected people are feeling with their neighbors. What are the relationships they have? How much care, how much trust do they have to the people they're living nearby? And so a higher level of social cohesion is about a higher level of connectedness with folks' neighbors. And so here, when we are looking at social cohesion, folks that have lower social cohesion had a 41% chance of reporting that they had a very good or excellent physical health. That goes up to 60%. Now, this is about a 20 percentage point increase. While this is less than what we saw with income, it is still similar in the size of it. And so once again, we are talking about either increasing someone's income by $100,000 or more, or helping them get more connected with their neighbors, the people they're already living next to, building those relationships locally in their lives.
Very, very powerful. But that's not it. Then we also looked at sense of safety, which you might recall was the second most frequently identified biggest problem facing the Houston area.
Exactly. And when we think about what might be shaping our sense of safety, there are going to be several factors, right? And we might suspect that perhaps the thing driving our sense of safety has to do with the crime that's taking place in our neighborhood, right? Well, here's what's really interesting when we look at our data is that when we ask folks about that biggest problem, think about the biggest problem we showed earlier. That was our second highest one. It was about 20%. So think about 1 in 5 residents lifting that forward. And that 1 in 5 is pretty consistent across Fort Bend, Harris, and Montgomery County. But if you look at the crime rates of Fort Bend, Harris, and Montgomery County, they are very, very different. And so when we're talking about this sense of safety, we are not talking about an attitude or a feeling that is merely driven by the crime statistics that might be out there, but rather there's a psychological component to this. And so we wanted to unpack this a little bit more. And again, within the report, we looked at a couple different variables to try to understand this relationship a little bit more. Here, we're going to take a look at one of them. And in particular, we are going to look at the I feel safe walking alone at night. So again, this is one of those variables you can either agree or disagree with. And so we wanted to know, do you feel safe walking alone in your neighborhood at night? We wanted to figure out what factors were related to it. And so we included income, once again, in that model. But in fact, we found that income was not that important when it was all said and done after we had included some other ones. And so we also, in this model, included how unsafe people feel in their day-to-day lives. And so for folks that are feeling unsafe almost always in their day-to-day lives, there was about a 50% likelihood that they felt like they could walk alone at night and be safe in their neighborhood. And that goes all the way up to 84% for those folks that reported that they never felt unsafe in their day-to-day lives. This is a pretty large and significant difference. When we look at social cohesion, and again, we're talking about that connectedness that we have to our neighbors, the caring, the trust, the relationships that we have for our neighbors. If we have low social cohesion, it's at 58%. It goes all the way up to 83% for those folks that have high social cohesion. And so when we're talking about the importance that relationships have, it's not just about the wealth, it's not just about the health, it also can help to create safer neighborhoods for us. And again, if this is a big problem, and it's been a big problem for the Houston area, this has been lifted forward by residents for years at this point. And so now we're pointing to a potential way in which we can begin doing something about it by getting to know our neighbors.
So over and over again, in the series of questions that we asked, we found that social connections are more important, in some cases much more important than many other factors, including income, which we often think of as the most important.
In fact, and again, we're not trying to say that income's not relevant, right?
It matters.
We need the money, food, shelter,
It
transportation,
matters.
right? But we also understand, Ruth, do you have $100,000 to help increase somebody's income?
Not exactly.
Yes. I don't either. And you know what? Even if we did, how many times could we do that?
That's
Once?
not
Maybe?
sustainable
You can't sustain it. You couldn't
nor
scale it.
scalable.
Exactly. But you know what we can do? Is we can connect. In fact, I would wager a bet, Ruth, this is the most connected room in the state of Texas right now.
Probably.
When it's all said and done, right? We have more connections in this room than anywhere else in the state. So when we're talking about these social connections, you all do hold in your own hands a solution that's not going to raise taxes. It's not going to require the passage of new legislation. It's going to require taking action on your all's part to get connected and to build those relationships with one another.
Exactly. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg, of course. There's a lot more information in the report.
Absolutely, yes. We haven't even touched on the environment, which we talked about. People are concerned about the environment as well as its impacts on our health. And in fact, this is just one of the studies we're doing in the HPRC. We've also got the Asian American Community Study. We have the LGBTQ panel study that we're launching. We've got budget surveys going on. And we have the Greater Texas Community Panel, which is a study that we just launched in partnership with Texas A&M.
Wow, so a lot more work coming out of the Population Research Center. But also, we want you to be on the lookout for forthcoming research by all of our research centers. In particular, we have our forthcoming State of Housing report. This year, it will be accompanied by a housing dashboard that focuses on affordable housing, the supply and demand of affordable housing in our region. So please take a look at that. And that is done as part of the strategic plan for both our city and our county. Also this year, we have 2 new annual reports that will be starting this fall. So the first is our annual State of Houston Population Report. Many of you over and over again ask us for more detailed information about our demographic changes and about our demographic projections, which I know is very informative for all of us. So that's why we are now starting an annual State of Houston Population Report starting this fall. And we're starting an annual Economic Mobility Report that is done by our Center for Economic Mobility. So in addition to paying attention to our usual economic indicators, we also want to pay attention to our ability to move up in economic status, because that's the kind of community we want to be, where it's easier to do that. And also be on the lookout for research coming out of the Houston Education Research Consortium. They're doing some new work on bilingual education, as well as our Center for Community and Public Health this fall is releasing some video resources that are designed specifically to help individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are facing adversity. So there's a lot of work that is coming out, but all of our research, the Kinder Institute is very, very committed to using data, research, engagement, and action to serve our community. And we're very proud of the fact that we offer all of this work for free. However, as you all should know by now, it is not free to do. So, of course, we rely on your support to help make this research possible and to be able to offer it free of charge to anyone and everyone in the community. This year, we're especially grateful for support from the Kinder Foundation that ensures that the Houston region has access to research as a public good for generations to come. So what this means is that when you all make an investment in the Kinder Institute, you're investing in an institute with longevity. So we're very, very happy for that support. But most importantly, as has already been said, but I must emphasize once again, our research would be absolutely powerless without all of you putting it into action. So please put this information to use. Call us, let us know if there's other research that you think would be extremely impactful for our community, and let's get to know one another better so that we can work together to make our community even better. Thank you very much.
Boy, they are passionate presenters, right? Thank you so much again to Ruth and Dan. And thank you really to everyone at the Kinder Institute for Urban Research and also Rice University. They're at Rice University. And a special note from Rose Rougeau. Rose, wave your hand. Rose has asked, yes, that we pause quickly and recognize you, our sponsors, and also supporters. Thank you again for your time and, of course, your generosity. The dedicated Kinder Institute staff, thank you so much as well. And the many, many, many volunteers who helped bring today's luncheon to life. Thank you, indeed. So this event is truly a community effort, and we are certainly grateful for every hand and every heart behind it. And Rose, thank you for your leadership, Rose. We appreciate you. Yes. And one final note here as we wrap up, remember that each of you actually have a copy of this year's survey report right at your seat, so make sure you take that with you. And you are also welcome to take home a beautiful flower arrangement on your table. Gentlemen, if you're in trouble, it's a good idea to take one. Have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you next year.